Hello Kid Art Nation! In this drawing video I'm going to teach you how to draw a sea turtle. So I'm going to break it down in steps. If it goes too fast, remember you can slow it down and follow along with me, and I'll show you use colored pencils to color it. Alright, to start our sea turtle, I have a white sheet of paper. You might want to put a second sheet underneath to keep it from bleeding all over, because I'm going to draw a Sharpie. You can draw a pencil if you want. I also have some colored pencils that I'm going to color with. So the first step to drawing our sea turtle is to draw the shape of the body. So I'm going to draw my body, kind of start here, and I'm going to draw a curved line that kind of comes up and around to where the tail is going to be. For the front of it, it kind of curves around, curves back, and it meets this point. In the front, to create my head shape, I'm going to start where it's going to come out. So a good tip is to maybe kind of get you over it with your finger to kind of get an idea of what it might look like. So I'm going to start kind of where the nose is, and it's going to curve up and around, curve back down a little bit to meet there. My mouth will be here, so it's going to kind of curve under, around, and then it curves down just a little bit. To make the flippers for my sea turtle, because they have flippers rather than feet, the front one kind of curves around like this. Let's just stop. The side is a little bit narrow here and comes in, and then it kind of comes out and around. For the top side here, I'm going to kind of curve up and around to a point, and come back down a little bit thicker. On the back side here, my turtle's leg kind of comes back. On the back of it, I'm going to have a little bit of toes on here. Okay? On this side, it kind of gets a little skinnier. It kind of comes over, a little bit of a zigzag line here. You'll have a little tiny tail kind of coming off the back of it. Now, there's the basic shape of my sea turtle. To draw some of the details, I'm going to draw a curved line down here at the bottom, so it's going to kind of come around and back here. You're not going to see it up here, because that's where the top is going to curve around. So I'm going to start about here, and it gets a little bit thicker. Stays about the same thickness here, and comes and meets at about the tail. I'm going to draw little dividers here on the shell, kind of a wiggly line that kind of goes up and down. Okay. Now the shell is kind of a tricky part. I think the easiest way to start shell is going to be down here. Kind of draw a line, comes up and in, down and back. Okay, now that I started there, you create kind of a pattern. Comes over and down. In front of it, up to that point, and down and around. It reminds me of like a Stegosaurus dinosaur. From here, I think it's a good way to kind of have a line coming back here. And then the curved line kind of comes over and meets here. I'm just kind of creating this kind of web design. Right. Have a good, interesting shape. There, here, fade that out. That's a pretty good design, I think, for my turtle shell. For the eyeball, I'm going to draw a curved line on the bottom and meet there. And I want to leave a little white. Actually, I'm going to keep that in mind, but I'm going to draw the pupil shape, leaving a little bit of white in front and back. And then when I shade it, I'm going to leave just a little bit of white in that very top corner. Give him a little mouth. Nostril there. I could add maybe a few details here on the flippers. And there is my sea turtle. To add the color, I'm coming back with my colored pencils. So when you're coloring, I really like colored pencils because it gives me a lot of options for colors. I can do shading, light and dark. I can blend colors and do a lot of interesting things. So I want to start with my lightest colors first, and I'm going to start with a yellow color. So on my fins, I'm gonna come back on here and I'm gonna color this very carefully. I'm gonna color each of my fins with yellow. And I'm doing a pretty even coat. Now, if you want it to be light, you press lightly. If you want it to be darker, you hold that color pencil tighter and get a darker color, but you keep it fairly light. All right, now I'm gonna come back with a darker green. This is olive color, so I can kind of shade in. So the key to doing this is to leave some of that yellow showing through. So shading with this green and leaving some of that yellow come through on there. Okay, so I'm going through. Looks pretty good. Same thing up here. I'm gonna do the front of it and closest to shell a little bit darker. I'll fade out to that yellow. Do it on the back side. Okay. Fade that out to the lighter yellow. Cool, looking good. The last thing is to come back with either dark brown or black, and I'm gonna do almost like spots on it. I can do lines, kind of connecting these. Got some webbing on there. This one, so again, it's almost like an almost spotted kind of shape. It's not quite circles, but kind of an organic, shape with some lines kind of connecting it. Come down here, same thing. Fade that out. A little bit darker for the shell. Gonna get in some of those darker lines. Webbing connecting it. The last one. All right. A little bit on the tail. And then the head, actually, I should have colored it first, is the same kind of coloring. Yellow. Come back with the green. Back with the black to kind of get some of the spots in some of the darker areas. A little bit darker here in the front. Fade that in. And again, to fade colors, you press hard for a darker area, and then the lighter you press, the lighter that color gets. So I can just kind of fade that into there. Then to create the shell, I'm going to go with kind of a bluish green. So I'm going to start with this light blue. I'm going to kind of color the rim of it, and then I'm going to come over the top of it, and I'm kind of going over the whole thing. Coloring in this light blue. Okay, now I'm going to come back with a brighter green. Blend together down here. Yeah, that's the color I'm looking for. I'm gonna go with a different green for the top. I'm gonna go a little bit of Viridian, and I want to keep the coloring with this color not all over, but just kind of contain it to each of these shapes I made. So rather than going over and coloring the whole thing like this, I'm going through and sticking into each of these little boxes, and I'm almost creating shading by not coloring all of it. I'm coloring parts of it, create that into separate little pieces of the drawing. And then this way I can have some a little bit lighter, some areas a little bit darker, rather than just going over with that same general color like I did with the lighter blue color. This bigger areas a little bit easier to color in. I'm gonna come back with one more dark color here in a minute. keep that coloring inside of there. Take that away. Okay, so the last color I want to come back with like a brown. I think maybe this dark brown will look good. I'm going to shade, again, some areas I'm holding it a little bit darker to get some darkness. I'm imagining the light's kind of shining on the turtle's back, so I'm going to keep it contained to the edges and not so much up on the back side of it. Try to kind of keep this. Look how I keep turning my pencil to kind of get marks going in the different directions. It's good. That's a little more advanced coloring for a little bit older students on this one. Now, if you're a younger learner, you could definitely stick to just, you know, 1 or 2 colors to get your sea turtle. I'm shading that in. And maybe I'm going to do just a little bit of the brown up here on top. Ever so gently, just kind of getting a little darkness in there. Perfect. Looking good. Maybe just a little bit of black here. This rim on the bottom side only. Imagine the light shining from the top. And that light. There we go. There's my sea turtle.